Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Strap yourselves in, my friends. We are transmitting worldwide, blasting out on the AM and FM dial, simulcasting on XM from satellite across the globe on channel 166, WWCR, 100,000-watt blowtorch shortwave globally, to all the ships at sea and all the continents of the world, and, of course, #1 on the audio streams at Infowars.com. and Prisonplanet.tv. We're streaming video. Thank you so much for joining us here at the tip of the spear in the fight for human liberty and awakening the sleeping giant that is humanity. We're going to be here for the next 3 hours. Ray McGovern, former top CIA analyst to Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush. He did their morning national security briefings. He will be joining us to give us the skinny on the latest on Iran as we continue to track that. The Hill newspaper reports from Capitol Hill, U.S. and Iran inch closer to military conflict, despite the fact we now learn it was Benjamin Netanyahu who canceled the Israeli/U.S. joint drill with their navies right up against the coastline in the Strait of Hormuz with Iran. So why did Bibi cancel that provocation? That's a good move. Maybe he's actually listening to his advisors now. So we'll be going over that. Also, Iran is having their signals jammed. Their national TV broadcasts are being disrupted. Press TV, national organ of the government of Iran, of Persia. Also, fear and loathing in Central Asia. Will U.S. go to war with Iran? Other report there. Saudis say they can replace Iranian oil supply if the sanctions coming up at the end of this month are enforced. The Iranians have promised to shut down the Strait of Hormuz if that does take place. So look for big developments coming up here in the next 13, 14 days or so. We'll continue to track it here. You can be guaranteed of that. Saudi Arabia targets $100 crude price, as we mentioned. Egypt asked IMF to pay $3.2 billion in standby facility, or they may go completely belly up. Egypt's next parliament to be led by Islamicists. The Washington Post reports, everywhere the globalists go in and kick out their own people. Saddam was a globalist puppet. Mubarak was. Libya had made deals 7 years ago. They put al-Qaeda in charge. And then I get lectured by these neocon radio hosts. I routinely tune into radio. I just scan through the dial, and then once a week or so, here's some talk show host talking total trash about me. I'm sent clips more often than once a week by listeners, but I even hear it myself, where Alex Jones wants the Islamicists to get us. Really? Last time I checked, I didn't get the underwear bomber on Christmas Day on the airplane like the State Department under CIA orders. Last time I checked, I didn't get the shoe bomber on the plane under MI6 orders. Last time I checked, I wasn't MI6 running the 7/7 bombings in London. London Telegraph, Fox News had to report. Last time I checked, I wasn't the U.S. Embassy ordered to let Mohammed Atta and 7 other hijackers into the U.S. from their Saudi Arabian al-Qaeda meeting. Last time I checked, I didn't create al-Qaeda like Zbigniew Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter. Last time I checked, I didn't use them against the Russians or the Serbs. Last time I checked, I didn't land them in Tripoli. Last time I checked, I'm not with al-Qaeda. Let's get that straight. The criminal banks that run this government and that are running our country into the ground, they run al-Qaeda. The very people using them to take our liberties and freedoms run them. Duh. All right. I haven't even started my engines yet. Total news blitz. Total news blitz. I have never succeeded. I have never come back from break and gotten through more than 5 articles before I start rampaging down whatever avenue that the tumblers click in my brain into a data connection drive. But I'm telling you, when we come back, I'm going to read every stinking one of these headlines straight ahead and only give 1 sentence of analysis before plunging back into the transmission. But it gets more powerful, more revealing. We've got a lady joining us in Pennsylvania where the state police came after her for not vaccinating her child.
When you're...
So I hope that you are strapped in today, because we've got a special report coming up in the third hour. We're going to be joined by a mother in Pennsylvania who is a listener, who is a health and sports director at a major organization, but we're going to leave that name out of it here. And I've called, made calls, confirmed all of it. She took her 2.5-year-old in to the pediatrician, and she was basically harassed by the doctor for an hour, pressuring her to take inoculations. And then when she got home over the weekend, 2 separate times, the state police came to her home. And so Rachel Garmon is going to be joining us. She's heard the show before, but it's her father that is a daily listener and told her to email us. And we have contacted her. We have a copy of the letters the state police gave her, and she will break it all down coming up in the third hour. But the reason I say this is a special report is because all over the United States, from California to Alabama, and those are the 2 news clips we've got actually coming up when she's on with us, is from California and Alabama. The police come to your door with bureaucrats, and they say, we're coming in, we're going to give you inoculations. And in some cases, they're so hyped up in their criminality, they actually will force their way in, take your children, and have a judge say that you're a bad parent and take them, even though there is no law that you have to take the inoculation. It is total tyranny on steroids. And in every state, from Michigan to Texas, from Kansas to Utah, this is now happening, and we have the confirmed mainstream dinosaur media reports, they're not even hiding it, that the feds are now visiting people's homes. Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control, families are across the nation, you've seen this in the news, getting letters from the feds. And then if you're uninformed enough to even fill out the report that they order you to fill out, which violates your rights as well, they then use that to send feds or deputized feds. And in some cases, it's not even constables or police. And we have newscast of this. It is health department people. And you open the door and they say, I'm coming in. We got the shot. I mean, can you imagine the ultra-mega tyranny of this? I mean, this is Twilight Zone, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, absurdist craziness, because they don't even have laws. It is just frothing criminality in a psyop. The criminal bureaucracy can't pass a law. They've tried hundreds of times. Every year they try in every state in the union. And so they do the other thing. They run a hoax, and you've all heard it. You've all read it, heard it on radio, and seen it on the nightly news in the month of August. Every day, it's the law to take 50-plus vaccines. We're having a mass inoculation at Zilker Park in Austin, Texas. We're having a mass inoculation at this gymnasium. We're having a mass inoculation to keep your children safe at this facility. Or at Central Park. It is the same giant, criminal, lying, wicked hoax. And now, in Alabama and California, that's the 2 places they're going wild. And by the way, they're done going and taking the poor people's kids who they think can't defend themselves and are ignorant. They're now going to the uppity places. And again, that's when you know you are hitting rock bottom. When they went into New Orleans and went in the high and dry areas and giant $15 million mansions, some of the most expensive houses in the country are in New Orleans. They look like the White House. There's a whole bunch of them. It's famous in architecture. That's what's on the news. You've seen it. Just type in gun confiscation New Orleans, and it shows them blowing the doors off safes, taking families' guns, granddaddy's shotgun, everything, throwing them in trucks and stealing them, and putting the citizens in handcuffs and going ahead and breaking their nose or tackling grandma. I mean, they want everybody. And they sit there with the cops and the rest of them engaging in these hardcore crimes outside of law. But remember, they did this starting in about 1910 in New York, New Jersey, then it spread nationwide. By the 30s, 34 states had total eugenics laws. Another 10 or so, we've got maps of it in Endgame, had quasi-laws that just said you have no rights, so they're unconstitutional laws, can't legalize tyranny. We are going to come because you made under a B+. We actually have the newsreels in Endgame showing the report card. And if the report card said you made under a B+, they would pull up in a truck and they would take you to generally a medical facility, an insane asylum, and they would have medical students chop your uterus out or literally chop your testicles off. And people say, well, come on. I get dumb emails when I'm showing the newsreels of this. And I'm sorry to get graphic. This is medical stuff we're talking about here. This is what happened. This is history. 500,000 people plus on record, just up to the 40s did it. They estimate another 500,000 or more, but the numbers were kept more secret up until 1987 when Oregon was the last state to stop doing it. And I've had the guest on about this. You say, but they could, there's other ways to sterilize a woman, you know, just tie their tubes or whatever, or do the same with a man. They wanted it bloody. They wanted it to be brutal. It was all about a bunch of medical students having fun and learning that you're an animal. It's about twisting medicine. Medicine is always used as the tip of the spear in tyranny. And if you don't know about the Soviet Union or the Chi-Coms or the Nazis and medical tyranny or medical tyranny in England or medical tyranny in France with the Panopticon, if you don't know what that is, you better learn. Because this is the philosophy and this is what we're under. And I have had family who doesn't vaccinate, and they've been threatened. Okay, well, you know, the doctor says I may call Child Protective Services on you. This is neglect. There's no law, but they've got eugenics courts set up in 1910 in New York by the Rockefeller family on record. Margaret Sanger, all of them came out of New York, and they set the precedent with the mentally handicapped and folks that it looked like it was reasonable to some. They always start with, you know, with the most vulnerable, and then they beta test, and then they move on. And they set this up all across the United States. And the family courts, people ask, how is it a judge? Well, I thought you get a jury. Oh, it's to protect the children. No, they were health department, eugenics, write this down, racial hygiene courts. Write that down. Just type it in. You'll get New York Times best-selling history books about it. You'll see the actual documents, university reports. Just type in racial hygiene courts, 1910 New York. Never had family courts. Never had. Family courts are demonic Nazi organizations of pure, unmitigated evil. Previously, if somebody was beating their child with a tire iron, that's deadly assault, and daddy or cousin Bubba goes to prison. And back in the old days, the cops pulled up, back when they were actually going after criminals, and some